I feel like the biggest lie that I would ever say on this channel is that I am sad that summer is over and I am going to miss it and this weather and no, summer, heat. Nobody likes you. Hey guys, today I want to address the question of which decade do you feel like you belong in the most, or if you could live in any time period, which one would you live in? My answer is probably going to disappoint you. I do not aim to please. Here I go. Honestly, I feel like I was born into the proper time period because as frustrated as I am that I have missed out on school the way that it used to be back in the day. Back in the day being when there were useful courses such as home ec. You guys get where I'm gonna go with that. I have been brought up in a way that I have been able to adapt and evolve with the changes as a result of time just passing and technology improving and advancing. I feel like if I belonged in a different decade, I don't think I would have accomplished what I have accomplished in this current decade. And you might say, oh, but that's very obvious. Well, I still like to mention it because maybe we all are recycled spirits and souls, and I will make a video about that as soon as I get my thoughts together on it, to where I feel like you are born at the time that you are born with the consciousness that you have because it is appropriate for your times and your surroundings. I think another reason I struggle with this question particularly so much is because I really haven't studied history to the extent that I would deem appropriate for me to have enough knowledge to be like, yeah, I belong in the 80s or I belong in the 70s, because honestly, I haven't cared to. What's relevant to me is my present. Yes, I do like to take moments from history, chapters from history, events from history, study them, learn from them, and see how they contrast or evolve compared to modern days and how much we have advanced or how we should have kept some things. But honestly, I never sit there and tell myself that, oh my gosh, I'm so a 1920s girl. Like, I just don't dwell on that. I just don't care. I do care for the stuff that is still existing in the present that affects me. For instance, I cannot imagine myself living without some particular songs from the 1960s. I appreciate that. Some laws that came into place because of certain cases. I'm not really going to mention, you guys can have an idea of which court rulings have been impactful for us to move forward as a society. I feel pretty happy existing in this time and age. I have it pretty nice, pretty easy. We have commodities, we have air conditioner, vehicles, our own personal car. You have ways to travel to places in a short amount of time. You can take a plane and go anywhere you want to, if you can afford it, that is. What I'm saying is that this is stuff that we have presently. People back then could only dream about. Some of them could dream about it, but they could not conceive this coming into a reality. I think that's what makes me say, you know what? As wondery as my mind is and as extensive as my imagination is, I feel like modern days make me feel more at ease and more welcome and more at home, to where I can actually do something with my thoughts and I can actually live my dreams, as opposed to just people back then may have only wished or dreamed of, like, oh dang, I wish that I could have, whenever running water became a thing. But some people must have been like, it would be really nice to not have to go to the stream with a super heavy bucket on hot ass days and bring water here at any time in the day. And most of the times you had to do this during daylight. Nowadays you can be at your home any time of the day, any kind of weather. You just flick a little thing and water comes out. That is huge technology right there. And finally, I do not want to leave without mentioning that another really important thing for me to consider is that in this day and age and decade, whatever, I think that we are moving in a better direction when it comes to, say, tolerance and evolution of opinions. You guys know how pretty open I am with my thoughts, like thoughts on race, people's identities and all that. I haven't really spoken about that one much, but I'm not turning a blind eye to it. It's just that there's so much to talk about. My mind is not always into it, but I have it on my radar. But yeah, I feel like this decade supports me, supports my existence a lot, because if I am anything like what I am today in a different decade, I would feel really lost and frustrated and confused, and God knows what kind of consequences I would have experienced already. At the same time, if my mind in a different decade would mold to the consequences, whatever is happening at the time, then maybe I wouldn't think the way that I think now. And I actually like who I am and how I am and now. So I'm not sure that I would like a version of myself that is too unlike who I am and what I am today. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I guess what helps me is I don't take my present for granted. Ever since I was a kid, I was fascinated with every time my mom would say, oh, my grandparents used to have to do this by hand. My grandparents used to have to, kill the animal and then, bring it to the table. Whereas nowadays you can just go somewhere and it's already prepared and packaged for you. I wouldn't recommend that you regularly consume everything that you see, because not everything lives up to quality standards, and you mention it. But I'm just saying, guys, we have it so much easy presently, more than we give credit, that it's very easy to come up with that question of, oh, I feel like I don't belong in this world. I feel like I don't belong in this decade, or I should have been a person from the 40s or 70s. I have caught myself saying that I wish I would have been an 80s kid, but I say it only because back then is when the stuff that I'm finding out about now that I'm enjoying was hot or trending, like we call it now. That stuff survived. That stuff from the 80s that I'm enjoying so much, catching up with presently, made it to the present. Who cares if it's not trending or it's not the hottest thing now, or no one's talking about it, or no one watches it anymore? It made it, and I discovered it, and I'm enjoying it. That's what matters. So with that said, you guys, I want to say that I feel like I was born in the right time. There are some things, like I said, that I wish were still around, that I could have benefited from. If I didn't get it, it's because I need to uncover stuff independently, or it's up to me to raise awareness that we could have used those things presently still, and that's something that we shouldn't do away with. I just like to see it from the positive angle. I can see the good stuff in pretty much everything within reason. I don't know, you guys. I feel like I belong in the 90s and 2000s and 2010s, just like, I am right now. How do you guys feel? How would you answer that question? Or how have you answered it? And what made you say that? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you disagree? Are you perhaps disappointed that I don't know much about different decades to consider that maybe I would have enjoyed another time period? Do you actually relate to me and you're like, you know what, you're right, let me stop wishing that things were different when I have so much to be grateful for? Put it this way, people from the 60s had stuff that people from the 1910s were like, I wish we had this. So everybody deep down inside is in the same position that I am, I would expect. Even if I am stating the obvious, even if this video is like completely pointless, I still want to put it out there so that you guys know that indeed I think that way. Just for the record, I still want to know what you guys have to say. Alright guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.